Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and it looks like we are streaming live. All right, yes, good news because this is going to be quite an exciting episode of the show. As you can see, Silver Dog Nibbles, I threw some paint on his paws this morning, asked him to draw a nice artistic backdrop for the show, something that would simulate and recreate what Silverfest 2 will be like since we are here live in Puerto Vallarta. Also, a little bait to get three celebrity. I figured if we're going to have a silver party, you may as well have some celebrity guests, right? Steve, David, Shawn, would you agree?
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds like consensus, better than Congress can get on their approval rating. And so what better to have three of the experts. And as I said in my first take of our intro, which was apparently not going live anywhere, but I could attempt to spend my next 30 to 50 incarnations learning how to be a geologist, or instead I could go to the beach with my dog, just learn how to filter who you would trust, let different people with different expertise get to know them, get to understand their strengths, use your own strengths, and do it the lazy Silverman investors way. And so fortunately, I am joined today by three of the, in my opinion, legends of the industry. We have in the bottom right corner, Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly, Varden, Silver. Shawn, welcome on in, sir. How are you today?
Doing really well, Chris. Thanks
Well, it's a pleasure to see you as always. You look like you did your morning workout and we're lifting some of those 1,000-ounce silver bars. So go easy. Don't bust a sleeve or anything there, but great to have you. And also on the bottom left is David Stein of Kuya Silver. David, great to see you again, my friend. How are you today?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Well, I mean, it's all for my own selfish purposes. How often do you get to talk to some of the greatest company builders in the industry that I will say is about to experience the greatest shift of wealth since the fall of the Roman Empire? But again, hey, I'm not licensed by folks like Ben Bernanke and the CFTC. So by all means, do your own due diligence. We're just going to have witty banter and silver talk amongst friends, maybe take questions, but I will promise we're all giving our best honest information, but please consult your financial advisors. Although you may want to have them, bueno, mi amigo. Oh, that's okay. You may want to have them check in with Steve Cope, who taught class at Silverfest 1. It was pretty epic last year. He was in the mining stock booth. So Steve, joining us from Silver Viper. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. It's a bit hot up here in Vancouver, hotter than where you are in Puerto Vallarta, strangely enough, but we're surviving and excited to be on the show today.
Well, I am darn excited too. And how about Steve? Why don't you start first? Maybe let people know just a brief profile of Silver Viper, anything you're seeing in the markets or that folks should know. We'll each give each of you a turn and then take some questions.
Yeah, I mean, Silver Viper's focused in Sonora, Mexico, eastern side of the state. We've got an exciting discovery that we made on a historic mining project. We made a discovery at El Ruby. We just came out with a maiden resource of around 49 million silver equivalent ounces split between gold and silver. We're continuing to explore. It's just a start. You know, we're on to something that we think is going to be of interest to those big major mining companies. And later this year, we're going to be targeting kind of the really big win down deep on the project and trying to find the contact between the meta sediments and the rhyolites. And if we hit something like that, like similar deposits around the world, look out, because those, you know, that contact on similar deposits around the world are, you know, what produces huge size, scale, and bonanza grades. And so we're very excited. We've had some big key shareholders come in recently that are funding us to target that type of contact. And so we're going to be testing that in the fall, and lots of exciting things coming for the company.
Well, Steve, how about rather than waiting till the fall, we jump right in? How would you mix what you just said with Roger Coles, who says, have I wasted my money buying 50 kilos of silver? I mean, I'm sure that's a question that you get variants of every day, where people are watching the price get pounded in the face of a hyperinflation campaign. I saw producer price index actually cracked 6% last month. We'll see what it takes before Ben Bernanke is faced. Ben Bernanke Powell, excuse me. I'd lump them all into one. But for people who think, all right, what this guy is saying makes sense, yet I'm seeing silver get clobbered, what you might just say to them?
Well, we're all, those of us that have been in the space a long time are used to it. We see it quite regularly. We're used to days like today where you wake up and right at the start of the market, you watch metals prices get hammered and then slowly recover. And I think we're all sitting on the edge of our seat waiting for the Basel III and what's going to happen on the back end of that, though I'm expecting the first day that we trade on the back end of that, it'll be similar. It'll get hammered first thing in the morning and we'll all laugh about it or cry, depending on which avenue you want to look at it. But, I do think that we are at the start of a bull market for both gold and silver. These markets tend to run 8 to 10 years. When you look at it on a macro scale in the end, we'll see where we're at, but I think we're right at the start of one of these markets. We've seen our first little rise up here over, the last year and a half. But I think in the end, you're going to see substantially larger prices on both gold and silver. I don't know what that high is going to be, but I know we're going to laugh at where we're trading at today.
Well, I could believe that. And thank you, Steve. Now, David, you look like you're ready for an introduction and to handle a Rubik's Cube of a question mixed inside of a COMEX Enigma. By the way, there is some company called COMEX here in Mexico. I think they sell paint, but I giggle every time I drive past their signs. So, David, can you let folks say hello to folks, let them know what you're doing at Kuya, and then be prepared for a trick question?
Okay. Well, thanks, everyone, for watching. I am the president and CEO of Kuya Silver. We have a very advanced project in Peru. So it's a former producing mine that we're looking at expanding and putting back into production. We're very excited about that, growing, both exploration and, more importantly for us, we're very production focused. We want to get this thing in production as soon as possible and be making money and really, producing silver, not just drilling for it. And so that's a big focus for us. We do have a second project now in Canada, actually. That's a little earlier stage, but very exciting as well. And both of our deposits are our projects are focused on high grade silver veins. So we do kind of small tonnage. We're targeting small tonnage, cheap capital equipment to produce from these very high grade silver veins. And that's really our business model at the moment. So that's Kuya. And go ahead with your question.
All right, David. So we have a lot of people. You've heard of this silly, ridiculous thing called Basel III, where a bunch of lawyers are sitting in a room with a bunch of bankers, duking it out over basically whether they're going to end the fractional reserve paper market. Conceivably, nobody knows for sure, but obviously this is the essence of a true free market as advertised by American capitalism and sanctioned by the tamped down CFTC. With all of that great stuff said, would you expect that with July silver deliveries coming tonight, and here we look at the COMEX, I know this isn't quite mining stocks, but wouldn't you almost kind of have expected the price to get pounded lower if these banks or somebody is on the hook? We have 1 day left to go. It's 20,000 contracts at 5,000 ounces per contract. That's about 100 million ounces of silver, which I don't think is just lying around somewhere. As context, yesterday, 12,000 contracts rolled off. So we'll see what that number is, but even 10,000 contracts is 50 million ounces. And if I would assert that what we've seen in the last couple of months is the banks hammer, cheat, lie, rig, and steal in every way possible to get out of any short obligations, whether it's Basel III or they just run out of metal at some point. What would you say? Does that all of that, would that perhaps explain why the price would get clobbered on no supply and demand news as we've seen today, David?
Well, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this happens every time that there's a contract expiring. Is it a pattern you're sensing here, David? Is that what you're saying?
That's
what I guess I'm saying is
we could probably give the data to a team of analysts and they could probably strip out mathematical patterns that have been repeated month after month if someone were looking.
Correct. And I guess
that's interesting.
I'm not a trader. I'm running a business, but if I were, that might be something that you want to look into.
Okay, I had the
I
same
mean,
answer too.
if you can predict the price, if you can predict the change, basically every month, and trade on that, then maybe you can make money doing that. I don't know.
Well, David, I will say that while I did not make a video about it, I think this month I was correct in my analysis of options expiration, as well as a couple months in a row. I could have just gotten lucky. You never know. Maybe the CFTC will check into that sometime soon. But Shawn, they're not going to get any easier, but I know you're the man to handle the job. I wouldn't have invited, a treasury investor on here and asked these questions. That wouldn't be kind or fair. But can you say hello, tell folks about Dolly, and then be prepared for Brainbuster number 3?
Chris, first things first, you look really good with a tan.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Got to get ready for Silverfest, right?
There you go.
It's true.
Dolly, Varden, Silver. So we're located in one of the hottest mining camps on the planet. It's an area referred to as the Golden Triangle in Canada, on the west coast of Canada. We've got a past producing project, produced 20 million ounces of high-grade silver. We're sitting on a resource of just under 50 million ounces. We're looking forward to proving out 100 million ounces on the project. We've got a healthy treasury of over 22 million in the bank, and we've got some very notable shareholders. So we're in the midst of a very busy exploration program that we've got a project-rich environment, and we'll be putting out a lot of results from now, right into Q1.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll be looking forward. It's been nice seeing I know a lot of people saw Dolly a certain way, and then I keep doing my best to remind them that there's a new sheriff in town. I'm also a big fan of the school of thought that look at the person who's running any entity, and you can extrapolate a character.
I think the
Mexican internet's down.
Are we back? Are you back with me now?
There you go.
I was gonna say,
See? Bueno? Si, senor.
the Silver Guts did not want that compliment coming out.
Well, I mean, some questions are too powerful for an internet connection. I mean, I don't know. I keep hearing that July 9 they're turning the internet off. Who knows what's going on with that? But while we do have internet, you see this dip here in the price where it drops from 26 down to 25.80 and then right back up. It's almost like like the silver chart smiling at you saying, hey, when it gets, is it saying buy here when you see dips that make no sense, even if you're a little freaked out? Again, not licensed financial advice, but as someone who runs a company, understands silver pretty darn well, in my own humble opinion, could people just ignore this, find companies where they get to know the management, especially in today's culture? I know Wall Street, it's like you have to answer. Can people buy shares, just set it in the same way that when I go get my oil change and not steps? That's the whole question.
Okay, Chris, I got bits and pieces of the question. But I think I get the essence of the question. And for me, my strategy, my philosophy is, look, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I employ experts, whether they're scientists unlocking new discoveries. In terms of price action and strategy, I tried to look for, to the mentors, guys like David Morgan from the Morgan Report, who I know and have a high degree of respect for, and taking my cues from him. He's looking at the current silver price in a range, And, like wait me when it breaks above 28. But to answer your question, yeah, what I think investors can do is they can buy and lock the shares away into a drawer and back management teams that you trust. And I think that whether it's Steve or David, you've got good projects here with people that have track records. David's a former mining analyst and has a track record of delivering value and success. Steve works within an organization that have made shareholders money over time. So you find people and experts like this, and you get behind them, and you give them time to get the business going. And people like David and Steve, even if they're faced with challenges, their experience, and David just picking up another project in Canada, giving his shareholders exposure not just to the flagship asset, but now bringing in another opportunity. And Steve has demonstrated in his career that same ability to pivot, or in the case after making an exciting discovery, pushing hard and really adding value around that resource. So find the people, and the people will find a way to be successful.
It's a lot of sense to me.
Thank you, John.
And with Steve, did you have another comment there?
No, I mean, that was for me. It broke up again. But thanks, Shawn, for your kind words. And I agree. I mean, I just think in general, there's so many, if we're just focused on the junior space, there's so many companies out there in our market. And to Shawn's point, like, even before you look at the asset, pick the management team behind it, because even if that asset they're working on at that point isn't the right one, good management groups are going to preserve shareholder capital. They're going to move on to the right assets. And in the long run, they're going to deliver value to the shareholders. I mean, Silver Viper, I could pat ourselves on the back. We had a listing asset when we listed the company. We promised a 5,000 meter program. We were 2,000 meters in of that program and said this asset isn't right for our shareholders or for our company. And we moved on and added La Virginia right away, very quickly. It's, we have a model, we stick to it. And like you said, if you can pick a management group that has a track record of success, you get to know management and can trust them, get comfortable with what they're doing as a group. I think that's first and foremost the most important spot for investors to be looking at. And then secondly, start looking at the asset after that and see if it's something of quality.
And Chris, what viewers and what people that are watching this, that they may not appreciate is, like, I watched David for years, and I watched him persevere and preserve the capital structure of Kuya. And at a time when, I was just looking a year ago where it was silver was sub $18, right? But to the relentlessness and the tenacity you need to drive these companies forward when the prices are working against you, when bankers aren't supporting you, it takes a special type of individual to persevere. And that's where you're finding people that won't quit and will find a way to make things work. It's a special quality, and it's one that you need to drive these companies forward.
We'll just take over the we'll just take over the panel ourselves. So, I mean, one other thing, if I can just sort of jump on to that point about, I think, where you guys are going, which is, cultivating longer term investors. The projects that we are all developing, at the end of the day, if they're great projects, and obviously we think we all have great projects, whether the price of silver is 25 or 28, it seems to make a huge difference to the capital markets right now in terms of what our share prices trade at. I mean, people are jubilant at $28 and then they're freaking out at 25. Well, the reality is the projects are going to be, given the fullness of time, and once enough work is done to develop these projects, they're going to be extremely profitable at $25, and they'll be even more profitable at 35, 45, 55. So, I think the key for us is, again, in the mining space, as opposed to the physical metals, is we don't get caught up in the $1 here or there in the silver price. Obviously, I am a big supporter of physical silver. I would love to see the price kind of break out of its range and get into the 30s plus, where I think it deserves to be. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world. If we're here at $25, $26, we can still make money at these levels.
That makes a lot of sense. And gentlemen, are you able to hear me this time?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, all right, there we go. Cool. Well, we're going to do a quick lightning round. I see my battery is heating in the sun right now. So while we still have that going, and hey, maybe we'll cut off. I think that's perhaps a great metaphor. Rather than getting worked up about these things, we'll just enjoy what we have here. One viewer writes in saying, why is it that the companies are all headquartered in Vancouver, where real estate is expensive? Any quick thoughts on that in the lightning round?
Where the exchange used to be. I mean, that was the venture exchange was located in Vancouver, so every company historically positioned itself there. And then you combine that with the fact that most of the top geologists in our industry, there are some that aren't, but a lot of them come from Canada. It's been the hub for exploration geologists for a long time, and the combination of those two things led to all the companies being based there, because when the venture exchange was there, the companies wanted to be there to talk to the brokers that were on the floor, and that's how information was exchanged. So that everyone's still based there because it's been the hub for mining exploration for decades.
And I think further to that point, you've also had, as you incubate a company, and as you build a company from inception, Vancouver has supported a lot of those startups. And then if looking at David, you're based in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. Thank you.
That's where a lot of larger entities and more institutionalized stories go. And as you graduate from the old Vancouver Stock Exchange, or today the TSX Venture, and you graduate to the big board, the TSX, and as you become more of an institutional story, you see some of those companies headquartered in Toronto. So it's a Vancouver, Toronto-centric industry, and it has to do with capital flows, and but in terms of real estate, I think we've all we all run these things pretty leanly and look in terms of group approaches where it's not one company or leasing out a whole floor at in the case of Belcara, or in the case of my companies, you've got multiple companies that are sharing in some of these costs.
I guess to that question, do you ever run into a situation where you want to hire someone and bring them to Vancouver and they refuse to move there because they can't buy a house? Has that come up?
No. If they want to be in our space, they know Vancouver's the hub or Toronto's the hub. The other thing I would say, though, is given COVID and what's been identified further to saving costs, I mean, our group is looking at completely downside. I mean, we were already running a lean office, but we're very keen on working from home. And now I'm going to be having an office space that consists of only 2 or 3 offices that are communal offices amongst our group, further saving costs for investors. It's we've liked the idea of online and what it's shown us that we can do working from home and then going downtown when we need to. But again, we don't have elaborate offices. We don't own the office buildings. Obviously, I would assume we're all leasing our spaces and not buying out the units. And cost saving is very important, but it's also important to be close to the international airport, close to, like we said, those 2 investor hubs that are very important for our space in Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a... Go ahead, please.
I'm just going to say that, I think that the hybrid model of allowing those who want to live out of the cities, we employ that. A lot of our technical team, they enjoy some of the things that BC has to offer in places like Golden or Squamish, and so we've got a hybrid model that we employ.
Yeah, same with us too. We have people all over the place.
That makes a lot of sense. And as we're getting more comments coming in, Patriot Zero is a Dolly Varden shareholder, it looks like. He says thank you. And Shawn, I thank you for what you're doing there. And let's see, Steve, we had a question for you. Stokebroker says he was on a call with Colin a while back. What do you like best about what he brings to the table? What's going on with the assays? Any new results? Any quick thoughts on that, Steve?
He was on the phone with who? Sorry, you said Colin?
Colin. Is there a Colin in the operation?
There's no Colin that I know of in our organization. If he, our geologist is Dale, but yeah, no, I don't know who he was. If it was a Colin who he was talking to on our behalf.
All right.
Maybe it was Dale Colin.
He called in to Dale.
Well, we'll see if he writes back in. Although another question here from Prepper Days. Thank you for the kind contribution. Are there minimum spot prices at which you'd stop production? Now, I know you're not all in production right now, but any thought process on that one?
I mean, that's going to vary deposit by deposit. What the, and ultimately it does. It depends on what your economics for that deposit state. One of the things is, we saw it with mining companies through the last, cycle, that they were still keeping the mines running, even though they were operating at a loss, because there is also a great cost to shutting down a mine and then reopening, and it becomes very difficult. So, I mean, in our case, that's not a choice where we would ever make. We've drilled and worked throughout because you want to have the deposit ready to go when it's, time and the metals prices are right or whatever. But, at these prices, I don't see even where we are now, anyone shutting down production, even remotely close to here. The mines that have been in production were in production, at $12, $13, $14 silver not long ago. So,
If you sorry to interrupt, Steve, if you look at the all-in sustaining cost of the Latin American silver mining companies that are out there that are either sort of just average them or aggregate them, the all-in cost, so that also not only includes the cost of the mine itself, but also any streaming or royalty costs plus any overhead, etc. And they're all in the high teens to low 20s, I would say. That would be the range of costs. And obviously you get a few outliers there, both low and high, but you're in that low teens high teens to low 20s. That would be the average all-in cost. And so I think if you start getting materially below that, certainly in our case, yeah, we wouldn't want to put the mine into production. We'd probably just wait that out. But yeah, at these levels, we should be very, very profitable.
I think for me, at $15 an ounce, the proposition of moving forward doesn't look that interesting. But once you start, looking at $20, $22 silver, that's really for me when a lot of these projects, and that speaks to David's point. It's tough to make it a go. There's very few projects that are profitable when you have $13, $14 silver. But once you get to that $20 threshold, it seems to change the economics, and it's that price sensitivity that makes a lot of projects go.
I would chime in too. Another important aspect is your other metals that are associated with the deposit. If it's a pure primary silver deposit, yeah, I mean you want to see $20 plus to make a go of it. I mean, in our case, at 60% gold, 40% silver, and being leachable, I mean, our deposit's going to be able to operate at much lower cost very economically because it's some of the cheapest, it is the cheapest mining method out there for large scale when you can open pit heap leach something. And especially our gold content will really come to light and be economic at those cheaper prices. But that's why I say it's going to vary by deposit. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the others. $20 silver for a primary silver deposit is a very important number that we've seen. I mean, we saw the producers in the last cycle, First Majestic of the world, most of their projects were over $20, costs. And whether you're looking at the all-in sustaining costs or really trying to factor in what the true cost of mining is, I mean, all-in sustaining is a step forward in our industry, but there's still costs that are hidden from the total cost of a company doing business. But yeah, again, I mean, we can move on to the next one, but $20 is definitely an important number for primary silver.
Steve, that makes sense. And gentlemen, sadly, we only have a moment left here. So I'd like to make a quick announcement that here is a 5-ounce silver cube that some lucky winner in the audience is going to win one of these. So send a thank you to Yara, who is moderating the chat, and also to Steve Cope of Silver Viper, David Stein of Kuya Silver, and Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly Varden, who have supported everything we're doing, bringing this information to you while they're bringing silver out of the ground. It's quite heroic and patriotic, in my opinion. And gentlemen, if I may selfishly take the last question. Oh, although before I do that, we got a note from Stoke Brokers. He confused Colin with Alicia Ford, which is a small difference, but great, brilliant minds. I understand they get confused. Before we wrap up, I'm going to pull up each of your websites. And again, lightning round as we're racing against the battery here. But Chris from Puerto Vallarta, this guy's always sending questions in here. He wonders, as a shareholder of all three of these companies, A, what is your website? And B, do you agree that shareholder value would be maximized if the great geniuses running each of your respective companies were in Puerto Vallarta with a pool and hot tub amenities like a true silver investor should? So, Steve, can you give us the address and a quick answer to that question, please, sir?
www.silverviperminerals.com. And I think we all should be in Puerto Vallarta in a hot tub, relaxing and enjoying the summer doldrums here that we're in our space. And we're looking forward to Silverfest when it comes up here in the fall.
All right, Nibbles, make it happen, buddy. Okay. He is on it. So thank you, Steve. David, can you give the website address and your thoughts on whether shareholder value is maximized in a pool and hot tub in Puerto Vallarta?
www.kuyasilver.com, KUYA silver.com, and KUYA is also our ticker. Yeah, I mean, we're excited about Silverfest, and yeah, can't wait to get there.
Well, I know there's a lot of people watching who will be excited to spend time with you guys in person. Really aiming to make it like a fantasy camp for people who listen to this stuff and like silver. And Shawn, perhaps you could check in with your answer and give us the website for Dolly, please.
The website address is dollyvardensilver.com. And I've always found that I'm more productive in a pool.
It's understandable. I know that's what most of the silver legends today are saying. So, gentlemen, can't thank you enough for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again soon. Iron out any kinks, but I think we got the main key messages across today. And thank you all for your mentorship, and not just for me, but on behalf of my audience. It's really exciting to have an industry where people can get questions answered, reach the people who are running the company. And I think you're a role model for what's going on in finance today. So I thank you for that. And again, folks at home, say a kind word, and that's a good reason why to spread some good vibes in the chat. Positivity and courage. You never know when you'll win a 5-ounce silver cube. So with that said, thank you, folks, and hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and we will see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, and we are clear with